Param, Vande Deva Paramparam, Vande Vaidya Paramparam. It's my responsibility to share few of the informations, few of the points, whatever I understood from the point of Sushruta Samhita, the chapter Rutucharya adhyaya. Am I audible? Is it okay for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Well, whenever we are looking into the chapters of Sushruta Samhita, few requisites are needed to move further because studying Charaka Samhita requires a different way of orientation. Studying Sushruta Samhita requires a different way of orientation, which is very important. So keep the first chapter in mind. I think all of you have studied first chapter already. So keep the informations, keep the concepts of first chapter in mind, which is very important one. So that is the one which guides you to read whole Sushruta Samhita very appropriately. The remaining all chapters are derivatives of the first chapter. So this point we have to keep in mind. This is applicable even for Charaka Samhita also, and this is applicable for Sushruta Samhita also. The basic framework required to understand Sushruta Samhita as a whole has been provided in the first chapter. So keep this point very seriously in mind and keep all the keys ready with you. Then understanding all remaining chapters of Sushruta Samhita will be very easy for all of us. So with this background, we should look into Sushruta Samhita. With this background, we should move on to the descriptions provided in Sushruta Samhita, which is very important. As customary, this chapter also starts with the inception by quoting the name of the chapter. So it is mentioned as Athata Rutucharyam Adhyayam Vyakhyasthamaha Yatha Uvacha Bhagavan Dhanvantarihi. So these aspects are very important, which we are supposed to keep in mind. Before moving further, we should know the background why this particular chapter has been mentioned here, has been started here. Because the previous chapter is, as you all know, as you already studied, is Agropaharaniyam Adhyaya. So after that, directly the concept of Rutucharyam has been started. So we should know the connectivity between these two chapters. So to know this, we should go back to fifth chapter, which is very important one. So fifth chapter is having one interesting end point, which you are supposed to keep in your mind. So the shloka is 40, shloka number 40, wherein it is mentioned that Emante Shishire Chaiva Vasante Cha Api Mokshaye Treha Dveha Sharad Grishma Varshasu Api Cha Buddhiman. So this is the last component which has been mentioned in Agropaharaniyam Adhyayam. So this is the stepping stone for the next chapter, that is Rutucharya Adhyayam. So this point we have to keep in mind. In Agropaharaniyam Adhyayam, the relevance, significance, need, utility of Rutu has been mentioned. So that has to be narrated, that has to be explained and explored significantly. So that's why this chapter has been kept after Agropaharaniyam Adhyayam. So this point we have to keep in mind. Generally, there are two ways of looking into Samhita, which always we are supposed to keep in mind. Many times what we do, we focus too much on Vyakhyas and we forget the original text, Samhita itself. We should come out of this, which is very important one. So always the Vyakhya, whatever we have, they contribute us to understand the Samhita in a better way. It doesn't mean that they are the major text. Certainly no. Vyakhyas are designed exclusively based on Samhitas. So we cannot deny or we cannot neglect Samhita, or we are not supposed to look into Samhita only through the lens of Vyakya. Vyakya is supportive one. So this point we have to keep in mind always. And we should take the support of Vyakya to understand Samhita in a better way. Okay, so these two aspects should be kept in mind whenever we are studying Samhita. Reading Samhita alone is one practice which we should do always. Second thing, reading Samhita with the support of, I am very particular about that point here. Reading Samhita with the support. So Vyakya itself is not ultimate. With the support of Vyakya is also very important one. So when we do these two together, then studying, understanding and applying Samhita will be very easy for all of us. With this background, we will move further, which is very important now. As I got the request from the students about Vyakya also, here I am highlighting what Vyakya speaks about for this shloka, that is first as well as second. Atha ityadi rutavo dvimasikaha. So the term which has been introduced first here, the technical term which is mentioned here is Rutu. Rutucharya is there, right? So what Rutu is, that is defined first. Rutu means it's a division of Kala which includes two masas, Vimasikaha, like Shishiradayo, Hemanta Antaha, Shat. We know the narration starts from Shishira, it ends with Hemanta. So they said, Varshadayaha, Pravrut Antava. There is another classification of Rutu also, which starts with Varsha and ends with Pravrut. So we have two ways of classification of Rutu which we should keep in mind. So these two classifications are having different purposes, different orientations that will be reflected later. So Rutu is the one which is having two masses together. So the classification of Rutu has been done in two ways. In one way, it starts with Shishira, ends with Hemanta. In another way, it starts with Varsha, ends with Pravrit. So these two classifications should be kept in mind. So these two classifications are having practical application which will get reflected later. Okay, so it is not something like it is only intellectual classification or it's only like intellectual categorization. It is not like that. It is having technical application which will be reflected later. So what is charya that has been mentioned in the next part? Teshu charya charanam rutu progresses. That is one thing. And what has to be done in that particular rutu. Both are going to be narrated here. How a particular rutu gets manifested, accordingly what has to be done. Both are mentioned here. Charya means charanam, vartanam. Charanam means how that rutu progresses. Vartanam, how the reactivity or the adjustability a human should do. Okay, so keeping these two components in mind, the chapter which has been designed is called as Rutucharya. Tat adhikritya kruto adhyaya Rutucharya. Tam vyakhyasyaama. So here the word used is very important one. Tam vyakhyasyaama. Vyakhyasyaama. We are going to provide extensive narration of the same with all specialities, with all specifications, with all unique orientations, everything. The word V upasarga used here is having its own significance which we are supposed to keep in mind. As I already said, in Vyakya what happens, they club different views also for better narration of Samhita. That's why in the next part it has been mentioned that Rutucharyam iti kechit Anyatha Vyakhyaanayanti. So we get some other opinions, some other views about Rutucharya also. So see the beauty of Vyakhya here. Dalhana has mentioned different views and he provided a conglomerarized view to understand the concept of Rutucharya here. Acceptance is also very important many times to understand the concepts in a better way. Okay, it is not like blind faith. It is faith. There is difference between blind faith as well as faith. Okay, so this point we have to keep in mind. Faith is different, mania is different. So here they are very clear about the same. So what he is telling, he is putting the views of others too, which are acceptable. So the description has been mentioned like this: Charadhatoho gati bhakshanarthasya charyam iti rupam. So here what he is talking about charadhatoho gati bhakshanarthasya. So here the word gati is related with, is intended to convey two meaning, as I already mentioned earlier also. What has to be done, what's going on. Ritu is having its own course and human is supposed to adopt himself to that particular course. These are all two orientations required here. So then how human has to be get oriented for the Ritu, how human has to be get adjusted with the Ritu, that is mentioned later. Tena ahara viharaha cha charyamiti shabdena uchyate. Human should get adjusted with Ritu through ahara as well as vihara. Let me give a bit clarification for you regarding this one. Every Ritu represents with certain features, right? It might be in nature, it might be in relation with universe, it might be in relation with solar lunar presentations. Okay, so this is the charanam of Ritu. Accordingly, the human is supposed to follow certain diet and regimen. So that is vartana. So I mean to say ahara as well as vihara. So with this orientation, the description of Rutucharya has been mentioned throughout. So how to identify a particular Ritu? That we should know, otherwise it's not possible, right? So how to identify that has been mentioned first. For example, if I say Hemanta or if I say Vasanta, how to identify it, how to recognize it, that we should know. Next, accordingly, what food I have to take, what regimen I have to follow, that also I should know. So with this orientation, the description of Rutucharya has been provided. Anyetu. There is another one view regarding the same. Athata Rutucharya Nama Adhyayam iti pathanti Vyakhyaanayanti cha. So they add one more word in between like Nama. So they say Charya means Shastra Niyamita Acharaha. So the word Charya indicates the lifestyle which is explained in treatises. Rutushu Rutunam Vacharya Rutucharya. Two terms are used here. Rutushu Rutunam. These two terms are very interesting one. What has to be done in that particular Rutu, that is Rutushu. How Rutu is moving on, that is Rutunam. What I mentioned earlier, the same has been reflected here. So how the course of Rutu is going on and how the human has to be adjusted with Rutu. So these two were explained in Rutucharya. Okay, then they say Rutucharya Artho Adhyaya Rutucharya Yatha Pradeepartha Mallika Pradeepa iti Nama Shabdaha samnyayam. So here the word Rutu is used with specification. This is what we are supposed to know. A unique term has been mentioned here. Pradeepartha Mallika Pradeepa iti. We should know what this Pradeepartha Mallika is. It's something different. Whenever we come across with the term Mallika, we get a common meaning as flower, right? But here it is something different. It is something interesting which all of us supposed to know. When you look into the term Mallika, it is a lampstand. That meaning of Mallika here is lampstand. ದೀಪದ ಆಧಾರ ಸ್ತಂಭ ಅದು ಮಲ್ಲಿಕಾ ಶಬ್ದದ ಅರ್ಥ. So here it has been used. Why this term has been come over here? This is something interesting which we are supposed to know. The word Rutu is used in common term also. The word Rutu is used with specificity also. So here the term Rutu is used in a specific method with a specific purpose. It is not used in common sense. So that's what mentioned in the shloka, stating that Nama Shabda Samjnayam Yada Yatha Pradeepartha Mallika Pradeepa iti. The purpose of using lampstand is to illuminate, is to provide better illumination through lamp. Okay, similarly, the nomenclature, whatever has been done, is just to highlight that particular concept. So here Rutu is not used in a very superficial way. The term Rutu is used to illuminate the concept, as the lampstand illuminates lamp in a better way. Similarly, the term Rutu illuminates the whole concepts of Rutu in better way. So Rutu is used with that intention, and that nomenclature is done with highly technical orientation, which we should know well. So when we look into this simile which is given, then we will be able to know the whole concept of Rutucharya in better way. So naming a particular chapter was not a mechanical phenomena for our ancestors. Naming a particular chapter was intended to communicate many orientations, multi-orientations regarding the particular concept. So with this background, we should move on further. Hope everything is clear for everyone. Shall we move on further?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All of you are following, no problem?
No problem, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, we will move on to the next verse, which is very important one. The term Rutu has been introduced, but before knowing the concept of Rutu, we should know the minutest component of Rutu, which is very important one. This is how all Bharatiya Vidyas are designed. So all Bharatiya Vidyas start a journey from minutest component of particular concept. If you look into Sangeeta Shastram, it starts with Saptaswara, and you cannot have any other minute component than Saptaswaras. Okay, so if you look into Jyotisha, it starts with the concept of Kala. If you look into Yoga Shastra, it starts with the concept of Ashtanga Yoga. So you cannot go beyond these, and they are the minutest component. If you look into the principles of Ayurveda, we start with the journey from Panchamahabhuta and all, and there is no possibility to move beyond that, and that is the minutest. That's how they try to define minutest component of everything. This point we have to keep in mind. That's why all tattvas and siddhantas of Bharatiya Vidyas are applicable for Trikala. See, earlier we were talking about body from the point of a system. Nowadays we are started talking about body from the point of energy. Concept of a tridosha was applicable when contemporary sciences were talking about system. Concept of tridosha is applicable when they started talking about energy, even in anatomy. And this concept of tridosha is getting applicable in future also if they move beyond energy also. This point always we have to keep in mind, which is very important one. So with this background, we should try to know this shloka, which is very important one. So they say, Kalo hi nama Bhagavan Swayambhuhu Anadi Madhya Nidhanaha Atra Rasa Vyapat Sampatti Jivita Maranecha Manushyanam Ayate Sa Sukshmam Api Kalam Na Liyata iti Kalaha Sankalayati Kalayati Va Bhutan iti Kalaha. So here we have different concepts to be understood properly. Why we are failing at different levels of management of diseases from the point of Ayurveda is we are not giving importance to Kala. We are not understanding Kala properly. When we understand Kala properly, then practicing Ayurveda will be more applicable. Ayurveda will be more adaptable. Desha, Kala, Atma, which are highlighted throughout Charaka Samhita as the minutest component to be assessed and examined, are getting reflected even in Sushruta Samhita at different levels. So we should know this very properly, which is very important. So here it is defined very properly. Kalo hi nama Bhagavan. So what Kala is, that is mentioned very beautifully here. It is the supreme power which is existing in this universe. No one has traced Kala till today, and Kala is the one which owns causality. Bhaga means Karanam. It is the one which is Karana for everything. This point we have to keep in mind. Kala is the Karana, ultimate Karana for everything. So whenever we associate every Karya to Karana, many times our understanding limits to the physical components. But there are many components which are the minutest one. Kala is one such component which is said to be Karana for everything. And it owns causality. Bhagavan, the word is Bhaga. So for that, modification has been done based on the grammatical rules and regulation, and it has been mentioned as Bhagavan here. It says it's not only Karana, or it's not only the causality, it is having that responsibility to become cause for everything. And how this Kala is getting manifested? It's having its own capability, Swayambhu. It's mentioned very beautifully. That's why we have to accept it, we have to respect it. You cannot do anything with Kala. So, to the maximum extent, intelligently we can manage Kala, but we cannot manipulate Kala or we cannot overcome Kala. This point always we have to keep in mind. The day when we start respecting Kala, then it will be very easy for us to lead the life. This point we have to keep in mind. So it is neither having Adi, nor having Madhya, nor having Antya. It's a flow, Payanam. So it's going on. So this point we have to keep in mind. Atra Rasavyapat Sampatti Ayate. The very purpose of Kala or the root importance of Kala has been mentioned here. Two components we are supposed to keep in mind. It is Kala which decides Rasavyapat and Rasasampat. Second one, it is Kala which decides and Marana of Manushya. Let me repeat it again because it's very important one. The objective, the goal, the aim to know Kala are two. One, Kala is one which decides Rasavyapat, which decides Rasa Sampat. Second, Kala is one which decides Jeevitam of Manushya, Maranam of Manushya. So we will segregate these two and let us try to understand this very significantly. Rasavyapat leads to Vikara, Rasa Sampat leads to Swasthya. Manushya Jivana is again Swasthya. Manushya Marana is Vikriti. So these two extremes are, let us try to call them as two ends of a scale, are going to be decided by Kala. Rasavyapat is also under Kala. Rasa Sampat is also under Kala. Our motto should be to maintain Rasa Sampat, to prevent Rasavyapat. Similarly, when the question of Jivana and Marana comes, our aim is to focus on Jivana. Our aim is to prevent Akalika Marana. Okay, so this is what highlighted here, which we are supposed to keep in mind. So everything is under control of Kala. Dravya is under control of Kala. Purusha is under the control of Kala. So knowing Rasavyapat Sampat is very important here because we are managing Vyadhi through Rasa Sampat, not through Rasavyapat. So it is Kala which is going to decide everything which we are supposed to keep in mind. So this point I already told you. The next one, Sa Sukshmam Api Kalam Naliyata Iti Kalaha Sankalayati Kalayati Bhutan Iti Kalaha. So here, what Kala is, it's very beautifully defined, which is applicable for every time. So nowadays we have the minutest component of time as a second, right? But here Kala has been defined very beautifully. Sukshmam api kalam na liyata. It is the minutest component of time. It does not disappear even for the minutest fraction of time. So Kala is one which does not disappear even for the minutest fraction of time. That's how it has been defined. So it is minutest component. Then understanding will be very easy. Tomorrow they may introduce some other term to measure time beyond second. There also this definition applies. That's what I said earlier also. This is how all Bharatiya Vidyas are designed. The principles which are explained in all Bharatiya Vidyas are applicable forever. This point we have to keep in mind, which is a very important one. The next component is very essential to know about Kala. Sankalayati, Kalayati. Two terms have been used here. Sankalayati, Kalayati. These two terms are very essential to be known, based on which the whole description of Kala has been mentioned. So, when we look into the whole process of universe, we come across with two major events. One, the process of conjugation is going on. Another one, the process of dissociation is going on. I'll put it in another way. The process of association is going on. The process of dissociation is going on. So the process of association and dissociation, which is moving on, is called as Kala. We get dissociated from the past and we get connected with present. Next, what happens? We get dissociated from this present soon, and another present will be ready for us. So this is how the process of connectivity is going on. So that's what Kala is. There is connectivity, there is a flow which is to be known well. So the factor which decides this flow is called as Kala. It's very important to be known uh, for further understanding of the chapter. So this whole event to be known very properly, then the other informations from the point of Sushtata Samhita will be understood easily. Any doubt regarding this whole information what we discussed about Kala till now? Shall we move on to Vakya?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So now we will see what Dalhana speaks about the same. Tatra yad angabhuta ऋतवः तम एव प्रथमं स्वगुण कर्म निरुक्ति निरुक्तिभिः दर्शयन् आह. So here few concepts are introduced which are very important one. As I already said, in Vyakya they try to establish the connectivity between the shlokas, which is very important one. So what they say, Tatra yadanga bhuta rutavaha. Rutu is a component of something else. What that something else? That is Kala. Yet angabhuta rutavaha tam eva prathamam. So we should know that Rutu is one intermediary phenomena of something else. So what is that? That is going to be introduced first. So that is nothing but Kala. So prathamam swaguna karma niruptibhihi. There are three terms used here which you should know. Swaguna, swakarma, nirupti. Three components are utilized here. What that root from which Rutu has been established and what it is doing. See, anything which is explained blindly will not be accepted by anyone. So, whatever is going to be narrated, it should have some applicability. That's what karma here means. And that is reflected in Nirukti itself, which is very important. Nirukti is one component of Vedangas which we should know. Whenever you want to understand, whenever you want to study Veda properly, you should know Vedangas. So without Vedangas, you will not be able to understand Ayurveda properly. Because Ayurveda is having seed in Vedas. That's why whatever the tools we have to understand Vedas, all the tools are applicable to understand Ayurveda too. That point always we have to keep in mind. Nirukti or Nirukta is a factor, is one division, is one tool, is one methodology through which we are going to understand different terminologies. So here indirectly many people they say that there is no role of Nirukta the Vedanga in understanding Samhitas. Certainly it is wrong. Samhitas are having their own Nirukta, especially Ayurveda Samhitas are having their own Nirukti or Niruktas. They are mentioned directly. In Charaka Samhita also, in Sushruta Samhita also, we get direct application of Nirukta for Vaidya Samhitas. So this is an example. So while defining Kala, they utilized etymology which is applicable to understand Ayurveda. Ayurvedic perspective of Kala has been presented here. Let me repeat the sentence once again. Ayurvedic perspective of Kala, Ayur Nirukti, we can call it as, of Kala has been provided here, which is a very important one. So when we have Ayur etymology, then understanding the terminologies will be very easy for us. That is directly done in Samhita and that is narrated in Vyakya later. That's what Dallana has done here. He Upadarshane. whenever we get the adhyaya he, we should know that it is having purpose. Because see, this is Gadya Bhaga, right? So when you look into here, the shloka, Kalo hi nama Bhagavan Swayambhu. See, it is in the form of Gadya. So here there is no need to add any abhyaya or add any other word to design chandas, to follow the rules of chandas, isn't it? So in Gadya Bhaga, there is no need to add that. If